Hey guys, it's Jacob from St. Bonaventure.
And Megan from Santa Maria.
And today we are talking about the Sermon on the Mount.
We've come up to this mountain to talk about the Sermon on the Mount, but first we wanted to ask you, what else came from a mountaintop?
That's right, the Ten Commandments. And when God gave the Ten Commandments to the people of Israel, they were just kind of these big don'ts. Don't kill, don't steal, don't cheat on your spouse, don't lie. And these big don'ts, they made morality really simple for God's people. To be a good person, I just have to follow these 10 commandments and don't do the bad things. You'd think it was pretty simple.
But the 10 Commandments weren't quite enough to get us to be the best versions of ourselves that we could possibly be. So at the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus gives us the Beatitudes. And these are like a new moral code that adds on to the 10 Commandments and helps us with positive statements figure out all the great things we can do to make God's kingdom a reality here on earth.
I'm just gonna start reading. Matthew chapter 5, verses 1 through 12. Seeing the crowds, Jesus went up on the mountain, and when he sat down, his disciples came to him. And he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Blessed are the poor in spirit. Jesus isn't really talking about physical poverty. When you're poor in spirit, it means you recognize that you need God, that without God we have nothing, but when we have God we have everything and more. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for they will have the kingdom of God.
Blessed are they who mourn, for they will be comforted. Mourning's a fact of human life. When people are sick, when they die, when bad stuff happens, we grieve. And instead of bottling it up, God's saying that we're blessed when we mourn, not only because we'll be comforted, but because that's also part of living a full human life. Jesus mourned. When his friend Lazarus died, he cried. But mourning's not the end, because God promises us that we will be comforted.
Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Being meek doesn't mean that you're weak. Being meek doesn't mean you let people roll all over you. It doesn't mean you're a pushover. Instead of dominating others and forcing their will, a meek person is humble, relying on God's grace to give them everything that they need.
Blessed are they who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be satisfied. It's really easy for us to fall into despair when we see everything that's wrong in the world, all the wars, the hunger, the struggles, the injustices. But God is saying here, our thirst and our desire for justice and righteousness will be satisfied. It's also true in our own lives, in our personal lives. When we're hungering and thirsting for holiness and righteousness, God will always answer that prayer. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. This is one of my favorites because it invites you into literally both sides of it. Blessed are the merciful. So it's calling us to show mercy to those who ask it of us. And then it says, for they will be shown mercy. So in return, God will show us mercy later. It's like that line in the Our Father that says, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Just as we forgive others, so God's going to forgive us. Just as we extend mercy, so God will extend mercy toward us.
Blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God. My brothers and sisters, I don't know about you, but I want to see God. And I know the more that I allow my heart to be focused on Him, the more I see Him. See, purity, it doesn't mean that you're perfect, but it means that the direction of your heart is towards God. And you can feel in your heart all the other things that are trying to pull you away from Him. Jesus says, blessed are the pure of heart. Blessed are you when you give your heart to Jesus, for you will see Him. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. Jesus says, they will know you are my followers by your love. The point of being a Christian is not to point out all the sin in the world, but it's to bring God's love, His mercy, His compassion to a broken world that needs Him. So blessed are the peacemakers, blessed are you when you go into the world bringing God's peace, for they will call you children of God.
Blessed are they who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Here's where we really see how the Beatitudes are summing up the values of God's kingdom versus the values of the world's kingdom. So when we're saying here, there's a huge difference between the way we treat people in God's kingdom and how Christ is calling us to behave and to believe versus what a lot of other people are saying in the world is valuable. So when people are making fun of you for standing up to do the right thing and doing what's right and just and holy and true, Jesus is calling you blessed. You're standing up for the sake of righteousness, and your reward will be great in heaven.
Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven, for so they persecuted the prophets who came before you. Guys, I know that it's hard to be a Christian in today's culture. And I know that sometimes other kids will make fun of you for believing in Jesus or for praying, for wearing a cross. They made fun of me when I was in high school for these same things. What Jesus is telling you and me is that whenever people persecute us because of him, we're like triple blessed. They put Jesus to death for everything that he stood for and everything that he claimed to be. If they make fun of us for following him, that means we kind of get to wear his shoes. We get to join him in his own persecution. He says, blessed are we when they make fun of us for following him, for our reward is great in heaven.
And there was that last line that Jacob said, thus they persecuted the prophets who were before you. We stand in that same lineage of prophets. We stand proudly being the voice of God, spreading the good news and being the good of the world and the voice of love in this culture. And we're held close in the palm of God's hand, and the kingdom of heaven will be ours.
Yeah!